Ollie, how are you?
Pretty good, man. Before we get started, who do you like in the Vanderbilt Middle Tennessee game tonight at 8?
That is not my focus right now. I am interested in the USC game. I think they play Western Michigan at 5 o'clock, but I'm going to have to take a pass on the Vanderbilt game. Although Vandy's usually tough, so I don't know. I'll take the home team.
That's Middle Tennessee.
Well, then I'll take Vanderbilt. So.
How about Charleston Southern Mississippi State? Who do you like in that one?
Didn't Brett Favre go to Southern Mississippi? So I'll take Southern Mississippi.
Oh, man. So you were out at Villanova University last night checking out St. Augustine Prep versus Malvern. What was your impression of St. Augustine? Obviously, they got a little bit of work to do. They're trying to find the right parts here after a couple of transfers and obviously a tumultuous offseason, as you put it, where they had quarterback Josh Samad transfer and running back Kyle Dobbins. What's your impression of this team coached by Pete Lancetta right now?
Yeah, I think they're a good football team, and I think they're going to be fine. They just ran into a very, very impressive football team last night in Malvern Prep. Quarterback Drew Gunther looked very impressive, completed 18 of 24 passes, I think for 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, threw to 9 different receivers. Running back O'Shawn Allison, I think, headed to Ohio University, ran for about 140 yards and a touchdown. Malvern Prep was big. They were fast. They had a lot of players. I think St. Augustine just ran into a buzzsaw in their opener. I think they'll be fine. Obviously now they have a big game next Friday night at Atlantic City. It'll be Atlantic City's season opener, and I know St. Augustine will probably want to come back and get the taste of that opening defeat out of their you get rid of that taste. But I think St. Augustine will be fine and will still be one of the best teams in South Jersey when it's all said and done. But I just think they ran into a Malvern Prep team that would, that is so talented. St. Augustine's not going to see a team like that till they play, one of those North Jersey powers in the state non-public playoffs in November.
Yeah, I remember last year watching that game when Malvern came down to St. Augustine Prep, and you could just see last year, man, this is going to be a good team. They're playing a lot of young guys, a lot of sophomores and juniors, and even though the Prep beat them, I think it was 47-30, but you could just tell that Malvern team was about a year away from really being a dominant team.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at the score of last year's game, 47-30. The Prep never stopped Malvern's offense last year. Malvern scored 30 points. I mean, obviously, the Prep is a different team this year. They're probably not as explosive on offense as they were last year. They did some nice things last night. I thought Shamir Collins had an excellent game. I think he had 10 catches for 104 yards. I thought, Joe Bonsack on defense was his usual active self. And I thought Chris Allen, the quarterback in his first varsity start in a college setting against a really good team, kept his poise and did some good things, threw a touchdown pass. But I just think, sometimes you have to sort of, the old saying, the other guys practice too. I think you kind of got to tip your cap in this case to a very impressive Malvern Prep football team.
Yeah, Mike, really makes for a very interesting season opener for Atlantic City next week. Obviously, St. Augustine will have that one game under their belt. But Atlantic City, you're talking about a team that has some definite playmakers on its squad. You have Mike Costabiel coming over from Holy Spirit as quarterback. Flash Morgan, really an exciting talent to watch at wide receiver. He's kind of a basketball player who's really kind of taken a liking to football as well, and about 6'5". He's one of those receivers you can just kind of toss it up and make him, go make a play on it. So they're St. Augustine Prep's defense going to have their hands full a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I have a story on our website, pressofac.com right now, and our football previews coming out this Thursday with, stories on each team. So you'll be able to read about each team in the, the traditional Cape Atlantic League, Atlantic Cape May, Cumberland County, and Southern Ocean County. But I think Atlantic City is one of those teams that can surprise. You mentioned Flash Morgan. I mean, I talked with Coach Thomas Kelly of Atlantic City this week. He was really high on Flash Morgan. Said he was kind of good last year, but he didn't really know the little things, how to break out of routes, how to do the little things to put him on the next level. And he said Flash really just had a tremendous, off season of football training, maybe concentrating a little bit more on the football than basketball this summer. really for the first time, and he's been really impressed by him in the preseason. Atlantic City's got some playmakers. Nazim Derry at quarterback last year threw 9 touchdowns. You're going to see him at wide receiver and defensive back this year because Mike Costabile, the transfer from Holy Spirit, will also play some quarterback. Ahmad Jones, wide receiver and tremendous linebacker for Atlantic City. So it's an Atlantic City team that has some talent. So that'll be an interesting game next Friday night when St. Augustine goes down there. The biggest problem for Atlantic City is the schedule. I mean, the division is one of the best divisions in South Jersey, that Continental Division with Millville, Vineland, St. Augustine, Atlantic City, EHT, and Bridgeton. But Atlantic City's crossover games, throw in a Thanksgiving game against Holy Spirit, throw in games against Group 5 schools, Williamstown and Washington Township. Atlantic City's just got plays one of the toughest schedules in South Jersey.
Yeah, next week could be one of those 32-27 type games.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like you said, I mean, St. Augustine will obviously, want to get a win, and it'll be interesting to see how their defense reacts against Atlantic City. One thing St. Augustine will have to watch is their outstanding linebacker Garrett Dolan left early in last night's game with a shoulder injury. The extent of the injury, wasn't known last night, but he left early in the first quarter and didn't come back, and that kind of hurt him last night. So, we'll see what his status is for this Friday coming up.
Talking with Mike McGarry of the Press for Atlantic City. And Mike, you want to talk about tough schedules? How about Egg Harbor Township? Their first 3 games are against Millville, Lenape, and Vineland, 3 of the top 15 teams in the state.
Well, I mean, again, we talk about that. Egg Harbor is in that Continental Division, and if you're in that division, which is Millville and Vineland, which are 2 of the top 5 teams in South Jersey, throw in St. Augustine, which is a top 10 team, maybe on the cusp of the top 5. Throw in Atlantic City, who is, a strong senior class and is a spoiler, and then throw in some of the, crossover teams that these teams have to play. In Egg Harbor Township's case, Lenape, a playoff team and a top 5 team in South Jersey. I know they also play Washington Township. So if you're in that Continental Division, head for the hills because, every week, there are no easy games in that division.
And, Mike, coming up next weekend, some pretty interesting season openers. Next Saturday, you got Absegami traveling to Cedar Creek. There's going to be some tremendous athletes on the field during that game. I mean, you talk about Andrew Marcucci, Josh Corsi, and Jaden Johnson for Absegami. And then Cedar Creek has a lot of good players back from last year. Even though they lost, Jesse Mills and Bo Melton, they still got some guys back there who can do some damage.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those kind of, I like those games, season openers that are kind of rivalry games. You get the rivalries at Thanksgiving, you get another rivalry there. Both those schools are in that greater Egg Harbor school district. So that's kind of a rivalry game right there. Andrew Marcucci, like you said, a quarterback, a 3-year starter out at Absegami. And Absegami, coming off an excellent season, a playoff season last year. I believe they went up to Timber Creek, played Timber Creek tough in that game. So, a lot expected out of Absegami this year. And with Cedar Creek kind of the year after, right? We're watching TV last night. Bo Melton's out there for Rutgers. He's gone. Jesse Mills, who was the quarterback for 4 years at Cedar Creek, he's gone. But Cedar Creek's got some players. I mean, they've still got some players, and one of them is named Melton, Malachi Melton,
yep.
Bo's younger brother, a sophomore. Dynamic wide receiver, already has a scholarship offer from Rutgers. Kamal Reed, a fullback who last year showed some promise. Jeremy Taylor, a little guy, 5'4", 5'5", but the ability to run between the tackles, even at that size. So, Cedar Creek has some players, and I think in talking to Coach Tim Watson this week, he said the thing for Cedar Creek, they want to keep their championship standard up. They've been to back-to-back South Jersey Group 2 finals. They went to the finals in 2012. Nobody told me there'd be math this early in the morning, but I think they've been to 3 South Jersey finals in 6 years or something like that. And even though they've graduated some standouts, they have a tradition of excellence there, and they're looking to keep that going. And that starts Saturday against Absegami.
Mike, a couple of really interesting season openers that area fans might not even realize are that interesting are Oakcrest at Ocean City and Buena Regional at Pleasantville. Whoever wins these games, really, that's going to be a nice season opening win for them and get them on the right track. you talk about a Pleasantville team that was one win away from the playoffs last year. They're really looking to get back into the playoffs for the first time in a lot of years. And Ocean City won 5 of their last 6 last year, so they're looking to keep that going. But Oakcrest, they might have graduated a lot of talent like Cedar Creek, but plenty of guys returning with varsity experience. So it should be a couple of real interesting games here at the Shore next Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about high school football, and I say it all the time, it gets late early in high school football. So even though it's your season opener, winning your season opener can propel you to the playoffs. As even though the playoffs don't start till November, and that seems like it's far away right now. But a win now can be really big. And that game you hit that Buena Pleasantville game. That's a key game. The winner of that game is going to get a big boost towards the playoffs. Buena in Group 1 just missed the playoffs last season. If they can get a win at Pleasantville, or Pleasantville can get a win over Buena, I mean, that's a big step towards the playoffs. You saw that Thursday night where Middle Township beat Steiner 32-31, coming back in the fourth quarter for that victory. Steiner's a Group 3 school. They're going to win 4 or 5 football games. The first thing that Middle people were talking about after the game is, hey, this is going to give us a lot of power points. This is going to propel us towards possibly, another playoff berth. So these games, even though it's the season opener for a lot of these teams, it's not the end of the world if you lose. But if you do win, it can be a big deal.
Yeah, at Middle Township, I mean, that's got to give them a great feeling. First season opening win in about 9 years. So they're used to starting off a little bit slowly, and now here they are 1-0. So got to be a lot of confidence down there with Coach Rigatano's squad.
Yeah, and obviously a big win, because they play at Holy Spirit, or I think they host Holy Spirit, or regardless of where the game is, they play Holy Spirit this Friday coming up. And Holy Spirit, obviously a top 10 team in South Jersey, went to the state non-public 2 final. So, not that Middle Township can't win that game, but obviously they would go in there as a little bit of an underdog against Holy Spirit, so they wanted to get their win. Very impressed with Middle Township, a sophomore kid by the name of Carl, Julian, sophomore kid, team captain. Frank Vigitano, been the coach down there at Middle Township for a lot of years, says he can't, ever remember having a sophomore kid who was voted a team captain. Julian scored a touchdown, picked up a fumble, returned it for a touchdown. It was one of those hot nights down there in Middle Township. He was cramping up, still got out there on the field. Cam Hammer did some nice things at quarterback for Middle Township. So, they've got some talent, and they were able to sort of, in a topsy-turvy game, rally in the fourth quarter, and then Steiner misses a field goal wide on the game's final play. Exciting game for the first game of the season, so nice win for the Panthers.
Good stuff. As always, Mike, we'll catch up with you next week and talk a lot more football, as there'll be a bunch of games Friday night and a couple on Saturday.
Obviously, it's good times. We're into it now, and the season is underway, so thanks for having me on.
Your days off are over, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Back to work. Back to work. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
See you later.
That was Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City. Stay tuned. We're going to